What's happening? What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are things out in Florida?
It's been raining a little bit. We've been getting a little bit of rain here and there, but we had a little cold front come in. I don't know if it's cold to much people on here, but it dropped down to the 80s.
There you go. I was saying we're hit with the cold front right now too, and it's I think it's 60 degrees outside. So
there you go.
A little chilly. Cool, man. So thanks for jumping in. Welcome everybody to another episode of Coffee and Coaching, and we're just going to see where the conversation goes. T, give everybody a little bit of insight. Let them know who you are.
Well, my name's Teran Gilmette, and I started real estate about 19 years old. So I got right out of high school. I started, and I hustled, man. I ran tax deeds, did some door knocking. My first broker was an auctioneer. So it was quick, 30-day process, buyer premiums and stuff like that. So yeah, what we tried to do was pretty much beat out the tax deeds going to the county for auction. So we would beat them out, propose and value our auction process out. And to be honest with you, majority of these people didn't even know they had profit or it was even going to the tax deed sale.
Wow.
So we hustled that out. I worked for them for about 3 years. And I was actually in the restaurant business during that time because I was so young, I was on my own, still had to pay bills, had rent and stuff like that. So I worked at a place called 12A Bowie. And that was, I tell you, I mean, the people that are in the hospitality group, restaurant series and stuff like that, it's clutch. I mean, I didn't even understand. To be honest with you, I barely graduated high school. I did get my diploma, didn't go to college, but I didn't even understand the word networking and what I was doing and stuff. And our manager at the time worked, he was actually a sales associate for a big independent brokerage here. And that was back in 2009, 2010. So those were the 50-50 days. You're on 50-50 splits and stuff. And he actually opened up his own independent brokerage. So he became our mentor. I mean, I worked the auction series, so I didn't really understand residentials with like home inspections and stuff like that, loan commitments. And he took us under our wing, and I still thank him to this day. I mean, me and him are really, really close. And he actually owns an independent brokerage called Branca Realty, and just an awesome guy. He just has a big heart and took us under a wing. And after those, that's when really team started. I know team's been around a while, but really started getting branding and stuff going. And he didn't really understand it, running it as an independent brokerage. So he really thought we should be marketed as Branca Realty. So we were cocky, 23, 24, and thought I knew everything. And that's when 100% brokerage started coming out. And I went to one of those for about 7 years. And best thing I can say is I ran a hobby over there. I mean, I did not run a business whatsoever. I thought I was the whole time. So ran that for about 7 years. Really cool. It was a really cool brokerage too, but you were on your own. I mean, I was all about the money at the time. I was addicted to money, and I said, shit, 100%. I ain't giving 50% up no more. So let's roll.
Right.
So, but no growth. I plateaued my career, and so I became a single dad about 4 years ago. And that's what really sparked the journey of just like self-development and self-awareness. And that's what I started exploring options in my career. And I, of course, came across EXP. One of my really good friends that I went to high school with, Dean DeVries. He is an absolute rock star, whatever he does. I think now he's in Frisco rocking out life coaching with about 8,000 students right now.
Wow.
So, so he, I talked to him. He grew a mint business in about 3 years locally. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, I've been doing this shit a while, and
Yeah.
this dude's crushing me. And I'll never forget it, man. He, like I said, about 3-4 years. This was about 3 years ago, and he video messaged me right before Christmas, and he, of course, and that's when I was starting to talk to him about EXP. He was already there, and he gave this video, and it was just so emotional. Like, he's high in emotional intelligence, and it just resonated. And we were sitting with the fam on Christmas Eve, and actually put it on TV to show the family what I just got. And everybody's like, "Yeah, you need to go. You guys need to align and stuff." And make a long story short, man, that's when it all started. It was March of 2020 when I came over to EXP, and it's been game on ever since.
Yeah, for sure. Back to the restaurant days. Were you in serving, or what were you doing?
Man, I started in the dish pit. I was hustling whatever I could, and so I was in the dish pit for probably a year, and then moved over to serving. They seen the personality, and they're like, "Yeah, you can't be back of the house. You need to be front of the house."
We're gonna get you out the front.
Yeah, and so ran server, but they had a lot of trust into me. I served them. I was actually a busboy at another restaurant when I was like 15, 16. And they were actually the future owners of this big 12A Bowie restaurant. I mean, it's huge locally. And it's so funny. When they would pull up, I used to run across the street to the little mini market and get him Busch Light cans, because that's what he liked. And I just knew his vehicle. And I used to, and that's when he took me aboard when he started that business in 2009.
That's fantastic. What were some of the key skills developed during that time, serving and back of house, front of house? What were some key skills?
I would say
developed?
definitely it was just talking to people. It was problem solving. I mean, that's what you did. I mean, you'd fuck up on an order. You'd try to figure out how to exactly explain it so it didn't mess up your tip and stuff like that. So I think it was just immediate problem solving and just being able to communicate to anybody. I mean, we had huge local business owners there. Locally, we have a big distribution company here. It's called Southern Eagle, which is actually owned by the Bush family. And he used to come in there. I mean, huge restaurant or local business owners. And you just really gather that, I guess, communication skill. You don't feel intimidated going through. And I'd say problem solving and just communication skills.
Man, I think it's a great path for any kids, high school, coming out of high school, definitely get into that industry. It'll, how to deal with people, how to, like you said, problem solve, humble you, so it's definitely, being able to communicate, because it's just becoming rarer and rarer, with people being able to have that ability to how to communicate. So, man, I just think it's great, a great path, for kiddos and stuff to go down to develop some really, skills that will serve them, whatever they do,
Nick Good's friend, Matt Kellerman, he's actually, he kind of is very transparent about his career in restaurant business and how it just really benefited him. And he's a rock star. I mean, go follow him for sure. He's a killer.
Yeah, for sure. So getting into kind of going through real estate and, kind of cutting your teeth on, man, just straight up hustle and being able to have those conversations, those tough conversations. What did you learn going through that? And I mean, essentially you're bringing news to people, like you said, they weren't even aware of the situation they were in. That takes problem solving for sure. Right. Being able to go through that. What were some of the key things back then that, really helped you guys be successful? How you had to go about, turning that into business?
Well, we would hone down on just pretty much the local ones. So a lot of them were like vacant lots and stuff like that were going into tax deed. And we would try to find the ones that were actually local, not out of state owners. And we would go door knock them. I mean, we would go door knock them. We had our presentation and they were actually, we had rejection. I mean, because they were losing it over taxes, especially the ones that acknowledged it and knew about it. And they were just like, well, we don't really give a shit about it. And they would just let it go to court and get it auctioned off. But there was a lot. I think that's what really gave the passion to real estate, because I solely remember this one lady, and it tones into the whole acreage thing. She lived out west, and she owned a like a grocery store, and she owned 7 acres by a church in town, and they never knew about it. I mean, they were huge, old school citrus grove. They had citrus grove packing houses and stuff like that. And I just was 22 years old, and didn't give a shit. I walked right up to their front door, and they were so welcoming. And she was the daughter pretty much ran all the business for the family. Mm-hmm. And she just didn't know about it. She was so, just so grateful that we brought this to her attention. And I would never forget it, man. We sold that 7 acres, and she profited $130,000. And that was, wow. That was a couple of years after the crisis of 2008. So, I mean, that kind of liquid off something that was going to the court within 60 days. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, I just made $130,000. And, I just will never forget it. Mrs. Robinson, I will never forget her face. And it was just such a cool transaction to give her that check and stuff like that.
That's cool. So do you think that kind of situation, that moment, that experience kind of propelled you in the direction that you're at today?
I've always had, it's funny. It came from actually Duck Dynasty. All right. Watching Duck Dynasty back. I mean, they came out, I think 2008, 2009 or so. And it was on my first ever business card, not with the auctioneer company, but with the independent brokerage of our manager at the restaurant. And I had Acreage Homes on there. Everybody put like rent, buy, sell, investment, stuff like that. And I always like looked at them guys on Duck Dynasty, like, I want to sell shit to them. it just sparked this whole acreage vibe. And I guess that definitely Mrs. Robinson was, and she was out in the acreage. You get what I mean? So she definitely had some influence on it. And that was just, it was so weird. I laugh telling the story, but that's kind of where it all came from.
That's it, man. And, we get sparks of inspiration from some of the oddest places. So no, that's cool. That's cool. So that, the whole time, right, that's kind of been the Acreage Focus. What did you have to, understand, learn? Because I mean, land's a whole nother game, right? A lot of people have zero understanding of land, acreage homes. So what were some of the things that you had to uncover and learn along the way to be able to, have that knowledge base?
Man, I'll be real with you, John. I really ran it as a residential style. So, I mean, just like anybody else, you can go on a local property appraiser and you see your frontages, you've seen your depths and stuff like that. And so during that 7 years in that hobby, I mean, we just really, like I said, I tried to communicate well with the business owners out there. I try to just be somewhat of a community audience. I wasn't definitely not a leader. I mean, I was young, and that's the thing. I mean, I was so young. It's hard for them guys to respect you at that age, especially good old boys like that. So I mean, I really just, I treated it like residential, but when I've got linked up with you, I mean, coaching just really, you develop self-development, but you gain clarity. And I had all these years of this whole acreage brand, and it just all started coming together when me and you started aligning. And like, for instance, now, I mean, viewers seeing it, we pretty much really work with site developers. So we really gain during a due diligence period, which I describe it to agents as like a home inspection period for land. And usually we do 30 days, and we have site developers go out to the land on site and come up with a retention system for drainage, because you don't want to sell a piece of land to them. And first, you don't want to sell it with wetlands and not disclose that, because 90% of agents do not even disclose or don't even know it's a wetland if there is one. And really, you want to make sure it's high and dry, because you don't want someone to go buy a big piece of property and then all of a sudden start building a house, and then they got to put $200,000 in retention and drainage systems in there. So that's one of the big things we do now. We do environmental surveys. So we collect boring samples and see how far down they got to dig to get to the certain clays and stuff like that for impact. We do boundary surveys, Those are pretty much residential style, just regular boundary surveys. And we also just have our general contractors go out there, especially if they're wanting to build an acreage home on the vacant plat. We just really want to get crystal clear for our client. And like I said, I can't be a hypocrite. I definitely did not do that before aligning with you. And like I said, I just really ran it as a residential style, but really just took it to the next level. It was time.
What did you, so, you said something, kind of getting in the good old boys and being young. How did you, kind of get their attention or like, okay, all right, this kid, knows what the hell he's doing. Was there any certain thing that you had to do to really kind of position yourself that, to where people would say, okay, we can trust this kid. We know he knows what he's doing.
It was at the restaurant, man. A lot of them went to the restaurant, and they were all locals and stuff like that. And it was just always that natural habit of hustling. And I think the hardest transition was they looked at me as being in the restaurant industry to then all of a sudden take care of their assets. And that's what really you had to get clear on explaining your different value propositions. Because like I said, I definitely believe in the whole restaurant industry, but you want to make it known while you're in there as well that you're doing real estate, because you don't want to be labeled just as a restaurant employee whatsoever.
Right.
So we did make it known in the restaurant that we were young, we were hungry, we were pretty much in real estate already. And we were, of course, they knew we worked at night. And we worked real estate during the day. So we worked doubles every single day. And I got in with my best friend. So make a long story short, money kind of got in the mix, but we're still cool now. Not as close, but we were young and dumb and greedy. But yeah, it was definitely, I look back now, and of course I didn't know what I was doing back then, but we labeled it as real estate. So they knew, okay, these guys are young and upcoming stars, and if they make it, they're definitely going to be in real estate. And that's kind of what we did, and that's how it was a compound effect, as I could say, from there.
Man, so essentially they see how hard you guys are working, right? So that they see the hustle, they see the hard work, and then being able to, talk about things in an intelligent way, right? You had some knowledge and understanding, so that there started to gain some trust.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I had a theory in the back of my head, and this is, of course, I wasn't coached back then or anything, is I wanted to go after one of the big dogs, and I wanted to at least sell one of the big dogs' house. So then it would gain me that respect. And then I can leverage that out, his transaction out to the future ones that were coming up. So to try to gain that immediate respect level. And I did a rental. It was a rental for one of them. And I just value prop that shit out. Yeah, man, I was working with the Bush family and stuff like that. And that right there, I think just started gaining that immediate trust. And it was just on. It was on from there. But that's what I tried. I had a theory. I'm like, I got to get in one with these big guys right here. Can't be doing, I got to get that reputation where, yeah, I'm young, but I can do your stuff. I don't care who you are. You could be a first-time home buyer, or you could be a high-end business owner here locally.
Well, you gain that credibility, right? You're having, success stories that you're able to share, and people are like, oh, you did that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I should, give you a shot. So that's cool. So, I know you had kind of touched on it a little bit, was it the kiddos? Was it the alignment with, who you were coming at EXP? What was the like, man, I got to get serious about this. This can't be a hobby anymore. I've got to kind of, the whole almost go pro type of mindset. Was there a couple things, or was there like one, like, okay, this enough is enough? What was it for you?
I started doing a lot of self-development. I started really trying to get clear on myself when I became a single dad, and it was just one income then. And of course, tuition and everything. So the bills just started racking up, and I'm like, all right, I got to get serious on this shit. Like $100,000 hobby is just not enough being a single dad right now, trying to do business and stuff like that. And to be real, they plugged me in on Honey Badger, and I seen your export mentors and I seen the coffee and coaching and stuff, and I sat there for days and days. And I was on that whole gaining emotional intelligence, because I never had that whatsoever. I mean, until the past couple of years. And the way you guys were, I mean, especially the expert mentors on there, Andrew Gadosh was one that really hit me home. And you guys were just talking emotional, talking neighborhood mayor and stuff like that. And I'm like, damn, I didn't even know this shit existed. I didn't even know this like life existed. I mean, we hustled it, but it wasn't strategic whatsoever. And that's when I really started just being open-minded. I mean, I was still got to work on it, of course, but I thought I knew everything. I thought, well, shit, I know residential sales. I mean, talking to these local business owners, but I was not coachable. I was not coachable in the beginning. I think that you have to have a mindset shift. Something's got to trigger. Oh shit. It don't matter where I'm at in my career. I still need to be coachable. Mm. And the single dad and just exploring options. And I knew I was plateaued. I mean, we were plateaued, single agent. I didn't have no admin staff whatsoever. And I was still doing 5-6 mil on average a year, which was good. I mean, it was good. I mean, we were 100%, and we were doing decent, but I knew there was just that more fuel. There was something I was missing. There was really no synergy at that 100% brokerage. And I started learning synergy on that whole emotional intelligence trend when I became a single dad. And I'm like, I do need synergy. Like I definitely do. And that's when I started plugging into expert mentors, and we weren't even coaching them. You didn't know me, and I was just reading, man, everything. I was listening to you in my truck, everything like that, writing notes. And Tina Call was a big one, because she just is a rock star by itself. But she had just a really good, relatable story. And I mean, if you really plug into them, you can really see like they're rock stars, but they were you at one point. They were you. So what gives you not the desire to not be like that? There's a way. There's a will. There's a way.
Right. Yeah. When you have the ability to, to tap into that, right. And model what it is that, that they've accomplished. Right. So it's, the plan is there. You may go down your own avenue with your own, whatever for you, whatever the market provides, where the opportunity is. But, the beautiful thing about a lot of those expert mentors conversations, it's timeless principles that can carry into any market and any market condition. And so they're just so valuable, all of the nuggets in there. And, had a great conversation with Rick Dillon yesterday, talking about, positioning your offers and just the knowledge base, right? The things that you were sharing about knowing the things about land and putting the land in the best possible position to where whatever client that piece of land is going to best serve, you've done all the work for them, right? You've done everything for them. It's essentially like, here it is, guys, right? Here's what you need to look out for. Here's what you don't. You just educate them, so much about that piece of land. And that's the same thing that Rick was talking about yesterday, right? You've got to know the market. You've got to know it so well that, when you're positioning your offer, it's almost irresistible. Like they cannot refuse. And his take is be a lawyer first and then tap into the emotions. And we were talking about, why that's important, because most sellers, when you're positioning and bringing an offer as a buyer, it's just about the math. And then once the math works, then it's just, now I got to get them to move, right? I got to get them to take action on their emotions. And I shared something with them. It's a Latin word where emotion and move came from. Emerve, I can't even pronounce it, but it's a Latin word. Essentially that's where emotion and move came from. And so when you think about that, it means that we want them to move emotionally in the direction we want them to go. We don't want them to move emotionally in the other direction. We want them to move in the direction that we want them to go after you've handled the logical side of things. And it,
Right.
everything that you shared, what you really focus on the acreage and the land side of things, it's essentially that, right? You've done all of the work. You took all the guesswork out for that piece of property. Now it's like, how can I get them to move emotionally to move forward with this, with this purchase?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And just really connect with the audience here. And I mean, it's the same thing as well. I mean, when we do Acreage Homes, I mean, you really want to get clear on, I mean, we're teaching agents now to read serial numbers on AC systems. I mean, you want to be able to, you don't want to go in there and say, hey, you got granite countertops and stuff. They're going to read right through that shit, man. I mean, you want to help them pick out the main key points on it is age of AC system, age of the HVAC and stuff like that. If it hot water heater, I mean, what kind of tile it does. I mean, point out if it's 3/4 or 5 1/4 inch baseboard, and that kind of terminology will build that trust, especially if it's a third party client that you just meet. If it's a lead generation or online lead gen that you don't have that referral base built up. I mean, that's a good way to pinpoint. I mean, make sure you know. I mean, composite shingle versus architectural shingle, and point it out. I mean, you can look up permits and say, hey, we're going to confirm what age it is, but it's not really a liability if you actually just pinpoint the product.
Yeah, that's so good. I was thinking, when Jay got into the market, it was good old boy, Lawton, Oklahoma network as well, right? Only a couple hundred agents in a market that only has, 2,500, 3,000 total transactions every year. And, here he is, 19 years old, and they're like, oh, good for you. Good kid, right? Your dad has been in the market forever. Oh, okay, we'll give you a shot. But how he had to break through is that he knew the market better than anybody. And so when somebody would say, hey, how's real estate? He would go right in, man, real estate is either good, bad, indifferent. It's up, down, indifferent. Average days on markets up, down compared to this time last year, right? He would just start spitting out market information, and they would be like, oh, this kid knows what's going on. And, from our coaching and training over the years, I mean, that's what we hammered every day, right? Market information, market statistics. You got to know the market. You got to be the most well-informed agent in the market if you want to, build people's trust. And that's what we coached, we trained new agents getting in the business. I mean, it's like study the market every day.
I think that's key, because now you bring that up, and because we used to do hot sheets every day. I mean, that's what they're called in Florida. I don't know where else, but it's just a dashboard and just look up the last 24 hours of new listings and back on markets, price changes, expireds and stuff. And now that you're actually saying that, we used to do that shit at the restaurant. So we would know the market. When someone would bring up real estate, we'd say, oh, yeah, that actually just listed in Indian River States. That's a local old neighborhood. But, yeah, we did that. Now that you're saying that, that's key, because that definitely, now that I think, it built up it built up knowledge. I mean, and knowledge.
And the other thing, too, new agents, we push them, go get out. You got to know the product. You got to know what's out there. Go preview all of the homes on the market. Drive the neighborhoods, get to know the areas, right? Know what's out there, right? You've got new construction going on. Go walk the new construction sites, right? You've got to know the product. And that was another lesson when before Jay started bringing on agents, he had 3 admin before he brought on his first buyer's agent. And they ended up we figured he did about 160 deals himself that year. And the reason that he was able to do so many is that he answered every call, but he knew the market so well that he would listen to what they were really looking for. And he's like, hey, this property that you're calling on is not going to fit that, but I know 2 others that will. Let's get together, meet me over there, right? So like he knew the market, that he could listen to what they were trying, he'd ask the questions, what they were trying to accomplish. And he would just say, hey, either this one's going to work great for you or not, but I know of a couple others. Let's go check it out. And if as an agent, man, you have to know that. You have to know the market. You have to know the market conditions. You have to know the product. You have to know what product's available and what product's coming. And that way, when you're having a conversation, it's just, hey, What are you trying to accomplish? I can't help you until I know what it is. But once I know what it is, then I know I can help you. And that's just, you have to have that knowledge base and that skill set.
Absolutely. That's key. I mean, we
Yeah.
just went to a new construction, just a good friend of mine from high school, just getting into the market. And so we took him to a model, and I've dealt with this builder. He's a local builder for a while. And I've noticed like his AC systems, he used to run Carrier. Well, with the supply chain, there's a sister company called now Southern Comfort, which is still made through Carrier. So I drilled the sales associate that's at the model on that, right? And he goes, "Oh no, they're Carrier, they're Carrier units and whatnot." Which is, I mean, it's a better unit than a Goodman here or whatnot. And AC is huge in Florida. I mean, you have to have a badass AC system. So we go check out these models, and what do you know? There's a Southern Comfort on there, not a Carrier.
Yeah.
And I pinpoint it, and the buyers goes, "Wow, you know more than the damn sales rep does of his own company." And just knowing the product line of it, just knowing that Carrier has a shortage on compressors right now, and knowing that there's a sister company that they're manufacturing, and it's key. I mean, knowing the product lines and stuff like that. I mean, you don't want to tell people there's leaks and stuff like that when you just want to have a personal opinion there might be a leak. Like, that's liability. But knowing product of a home like a general contractor does, 100% key.
Yeah, it's so cool. So for you, kind of that turning pro mindset, what have been some of the biggest gains, not only in knowledge, but for you business wise since kind of that mental shift?
Ooh, I would say time management and reset. I mean, I really, really believe that that you've really influenced me on that. I mean, I am somewhat of a visionary, so I got 15 different marketing ideas running through my head at the same time and stuff. But really getting clarity and time management. So getting clear on your rocks per quarter. Between me and you, I mean, before I even started coaching with you, I didn't even look at quarters or anything like that.
Uh-uh.
I didn't know what ISA was. I mean, 2 years ago, I mean, or a year ago, but we started a year in November. So I didn't know none of it. But yeah, time management, reset, because you always have those days where you get a shitty inspection come in and you got to problem solve it out and it drains you, or you get an appraisal, especially right now, that comes in low. I mean, you definitely lose some motivation that day. And with the reset, it's so much, you gain so much more clear by blocking out those times for the next day. So you already have your next day plan. So if your motivation goes down the day before, guess what? If you're committed, you better get right back into it 100%. And like before that, I didn't do any time blocking. I didn't even have a calendar before you. And you'd lose motivation. And guess what? Here you go going into the weekend. I'll just go have a beer for lunch. And then you're having 3 or 4 or 5. You ain't doing nothing. And you're just not committed. You're just committed to taking calls that are on your files. You ain't doing no prospecting, no extra legwork on anything. And you're definitely not pursuing your rocks whatsoever.
Yeah, you're not on offense. You're just kind of reactive. And that's that circular world that so many people get into. And, it's all about, getting from where you're at to where you want to go, A to B, straight line, whatever, mental trigger that works well for you. But essentially, we're trying to get to a known destination. And if you don't have that known destination, you get in that circular world. Or, and this is typical for a lot of salespeople, especially salespeople that have monthly quotas, is that they'll start on that path and then they'll fall off, right? And then they're like, oh shit, I got to make some sales. And they get back on it. I got a quota I got to hit. But typically what happens in real estate is that you set your own quota. And so most people don't, they don't hold themselves accountable enough to that monthly quota. And so they just, whatever. And then before you know, it's just like you said, they're in that circular cycle. And that circular cycle can go on for a long time until they have an awareness that, bro, you're spiraling out of control. You're moving in no known direction. It's Groundhog Month, right, for you. And if you're not careful, it's going to be Groundhog Year. And
Right.
so it's moving in that known direction is so important. So you can be intentional, you can be on offense, and you can be just, intentional and relentless every day in pursuit to get you to that destination faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And doing those and blocking out, I mean, as you've said before, I mean, go back to a Sunday planning because it's key. I mean, I am very committed to that. I believe in it. And like I said, I mean, there's some days where I'm like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
And you go right back to it. I mean, you go right back to it. And it's key, 100% key. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, you think the pros go into the week without a game plan, right? You think Tom Brady is not prepared, right? You don't think he's already prepared he's prepared for this weekend, but as soon as the game's over, do you think he's not going to be prepared for the next week? What has to happen? And so, yeah, I mean, it's that mindset. I mean, you can choose to be an amateur, or you can choose to be a professional. And then what has to happen if you choose to be professional, then you have to make sure that your habits and your behavior are pro level habits and behavior, right? We're not going to get pro level status with amateur habits. You're not going to make a mill with $10 an hour behavior. Math doesn't work. So one, you can make that decision, but then from there, you better make sure that your calendar and your behavior and your habits align to that desired outcome. And if not,
Absolutely.
It's just not going to work.
Absolutely.
Not going to work at all. So for you right now, man, what are you the most excited about, as we're here in the fourth quarter, about to head into a new year? Like, what are you the most excited about moving forward?
Just everything coming together. I mean, we're really big on SOIs, so sphere of influence. We've really got a lot of training from your wife in regards to, I mean, branding and marketing and stuff. So big shout out to Miss Holly Kitchens for sure. And we've really taken it to the next level, and we've honed down, and especially Mr. Alex Piak. I mean, he's a huge influencer in the game and has completely changed the mindset of mine on exact target.
He's the most articulated and most skilled dude I've ever seen. He's gangster.
I'd give my shirt off my back for him, especially you too, but he's gangster too, for sure. And what we've done recently is started doing our own. I mean, we do lead gen. So we actually run GGMS, and we've got the affiliation from him, but we've also started narrowing down our own social media lead gen. So we're running direct ads on a direct audience. So most of the time when you go just sponsor a boosted post, I mean, you actually have a 15-mile radius. Well, we've cracked the code somewhat. And I mean, if we want to hone down on a 300 household or a home community, we can do that. And there's a lot of steps to it, which, I mean, anybody can connect with me, and I'm very open to share that as well. But we honed down pretty much. It's called the force multiplier. So right now, we're doing a lot of circle prospecting. So you're getting the calls from us in regards to the acreage specialist, introducing our organization and whatnot. Then you're seeing some badass ads on social media. So whenever you scroll, and then you're like, damn, I just got a call from them as well. And then the postcard comes in, and then they hit the postcard. And we're about to really up the ante a little bit. I'm actually going to get a side-by-side here shortly, and start rolling the community out west, and just putting door hangers and stuff like that, based upon that marketing campaign that we're launching. So just ready to take marketing to the next level. Super excited.
You do social for your business and lead gen really, really well. What somebody that I guess, what do you see the common mistake most agents make, most people make with social, as far as it goes to lead gen and for their business? And then what's probably the number one most important thing that you have to really pay attention to?
I say too busy. I mean, you got to keep it clean, keep it simple. That's what Holly's always said. And you see a lot of these already pre-platted formats that say Caldwell Banker will give you or whatnot. And you got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 pictures on one. And then you got all this information and how many bedrooms and bathrooms. They ain't reading that shit. I'm just going to let you know. That ain't stopping the scroll. That's the scientific fact about it on SOIs on social media is you got to stop the thumb scroll. And the only way to do that, we pretty much, I mean, I couldn't say the only way, but we really dug into one photo. I mean, one photo, making it consistent with our, of course, EXP company. And also, I mean, a brand recognition. It could either be a team logo. It could be I have an independent signature that has got very well known in town.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see it, you know exactly that's T right there. And that's what you want. I mean, that's what they're going to contact you no matter what, if it's, and personally, I don't like putting on my acreage homes. I don't like putting the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the size of the acreage because you want that engagement. That's why you're posting no matter what. You want engagement. You want likes and you want people to comment or message you. That's what you're doing. So why are you putting all that information out there? So they just they're not going to contact you in return. That's not going to build any relationship whatsoever.
No, not at all.
We're in a relationship building business.
Yeah. I would say one thing that I think you do really, really well is, I mean, you nail the photo. I mean, the photo, like you have that, just that clean, distinctive look every time. It's like, oh, that's a T property, right? I know. I mean, you can see it, right? You really pay attention to that detail. And I think a lot of people don't. And it's just so important to nail that detail of that one picture.
I think it's huge is we're training now on agents is create a little restriction with that. I mean, listen, I love how I'm doing role plays with DJ. So there's difference between, like, while you circle prospecting, you always want to agree with them. Mm-hmm. You get what I mean? You don't want to cause any restriction on that. But when you're in the door and they start asking you your personal experience or personal preference on how to stage and whatnot, like, I tell people, you got to get this shit out of here. Like, we ain't listening like that. So little rule of thumb, like I always say, like no paper towel holders, no toothbrush holders, no dish soap. I mean, you better not have any dish towels on the rack of like an oven, because guess what? You're not selling a big, bold red towel. You're selling the product. They want to be able to see, I mean, that stainless steel and clean lines, man. I mean, that's really what me and my photographer have really came up with, like, strategy wise, is clean lines in a picture. It's key. It's key.
It is so key. It's so key, man. I see that shit all the time. I just shake my head. I'm like, man, you're doing these sellers a disservice. And a lot of agents, man, they're just lazy. They've been lazy to the market conditions, and, they've been rewarded for bad behavior. That was always, cutting our teeth in a market where average sales price is in the 120s. And so, like, every detail matters. And that's what we would say about a lot of agents in higher price point markets, is that we saw the bad behavior, but they were getting rewarded for the bad behavior. They were getting rewarded for being half-ass. And because their margins, I mean, their checks were 4 or 5 times what ours were. So we couldn't afford to not pay attention to every damn detail. And, that's why what are all the revenue streams? How can we get all the bites of the apple? How can we have a percentage of everything, right? You have to look at it that way to be able to survive in a market like that. And Absolutely. So, man, I loved what you said, man. Clean lines and details matter.
Yeah. And just having that affiliation. I mean, we value prop out, pressure washing companies for all the listings. We do offer a cleaning crew. Some people will get offended. You get what I mean? So depending on, you got to play that situation out. You don't want to, my house is dirty and stuff like that. So, but if you could sell, they're stressed out and they got a bunch of kids and stuff like that, offer that stuff, man. Yeah. I mean, let's just be real here. This market sells itself. I mean, we're starting to, I think, see a plateau or shift or whatnot. But especially last year, I mean, you put it on MLS and you're having 30 offers. Mm-hmm. So let's not be greedy. Let's leverage out a little bit of assistance on the back end on pressure washing crews, cleaning crews. Now we have a maintenance crew that goes out every Saturday to our acreage listings, because pastures and stuff like that, it's hard. I mean, especially these people, most of them are downsizing because the acreage is just too much for them at 50, 60 years old, and keeping good lines on like fence lines and stuff like that. So I got a good buddy of mine that we came up with a program to, it's up to 5 per Saturday, and he'll go out there and kind of mow it and make it look nice and stuff like that. And just in case for showings for that weekend. So thinking outside the box is huge.
Hey, man.
I think I forgot who said it. I think it was Kyle Whistle, where, I mean, if you want to actually grow a business, I mean, there's potential where while you're scaling and growing that reputation, it might not be a lot of profit. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that resonated so well with me right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about, you know, I mean, brand, right? Brand is just your reputation in the marketplace. And so what's the reputation that your brand stands for? And, you know, you can choose to be half-assed, or you can choose to be, you know, clean lines, you know, details matter, you know, going above and beyond, because that stuff comes back full circle. And that's, Rick and I were talking about the same thing, right? It's like, it's lifetime value. You have to have the lifetime value mentality. And, you know, you're trying to create a raving fan. And so, you know, what are you doing to proactively manage that experience to where you're able to create that raving fan that's going to be shouting your praises, you know, wherever they go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brother, I appreciate you. What, you know, for folks that want to, you know, tune in, that want to connect, what's the best way to connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook, just Teran Gilmette, and then cell phone number is 772-204-5077. And I would always love to, hop on Zoom or whatnot, man. Any value that I can provide to the group.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Appreciate you, brother. Keep rocking, and I know we'll keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. See you guys
See ya.
later.